Before we head into our first session of the day, I'm excited to announce the launch of a new video series all about the cuisine of Oaxaca, produced by the Culinary Institute of America's digital media team and sponsored by Unilever Food Solutions. And now for a sneak peek of the new series, we're going to play this quick clip.
In this series, we're going to explore Oaxaca with its food, with culinary traditions, markets, ingredients, techniques, and everything in between. I'm here with Chef Brandon Collins, Corporate Executive Chef at Unilever Food Solutions, to teach him about Oaxaca cuisine.
So you can watch the full new video series and download recipes at plantforwardkitchen.org. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our first session of the day, Cultural Roots, Culinary Reach, Mediterranean Global Flavors Driving U.S. Menu Innovation, and to be able to introduce our moderator, Erica Holland-Toll. Erica Holland-Toll is Culinary Director at the Culinary Edge, a food and beverage consultancy where strategic and culinary talent are fused with human-centered design to forge the future of food and beverage brands. She's worked across colleges and universities, works with QSRs, campus dining, hotel, and fine dining, and that's given her deep insight into creating delicious recipes and efficient operations that empathize with the operator, the employee, and the guest. So now it is my honor to introduce, to hand it over to Erica Holland-Toll.
Good morning, everyone. You guys hear us okay? All right, awesome. I'm so excited to be here today. Have lived in Calistoga for a little while and just, obviously being in the food business for a long time, this is like quite an honor. And then to be here with two amazing people as well. I think that I'd love to just kind of kick us off talking a little bit about who we're with today. So we have Bob Anderson, he's president of the Great Greek Mediterranean Grill, and Rose Previtt, can't even start, like chef owner, restaurateur, entrepreneur, cookbook writer, amazing person. We'll just start there talking a little bit about what we're doing today, thinking about Mediterranean, I think that's it. All right, cool. We think about Mediterranean food and how really it is on fire across the United States. We see that restaurant sales have been projected to reach like 1.2 trillion is the CAGR expected by 2030. And so as we sit today and talk about Mediterranean food and business in the US and how it impacts our lives, I think that it's really great to ground ourselves in two very different segments. And so Rose, do you want to spend a second talking about yourself and what you've been doing? And
Totally, thank you. Can you guys hear me? On the hand mic. Also, like Eric, we were talking about needing to talk with our hands, so this is going to be a struggle to not have one of them, so bear with me. Thank you all for having me here. I never, unfortunately, lived in the area. I wish I had. I also always brings up that I'm a little self-conscious. I didn't go to culinary school, so it's been really fun to be here and kind of pretend for a couple days. It's an amazing facility, and I'm really honored to be here. I own restaurants in Washington, D.C., and then literally October 1st, I opened my first restaurant in Los Angeles. So I might look a little extra haggard. That would be because it's been an opening of a 10,000 square foot space that I have questioned my life choices for like every day of the last 30 days and 30 nights. But it has been beautiful, and I'm super excited to have a West Coast presence. But my career started in Washington, D.C. with a little restaurant called Compass Rose. And I opened it after living abroad in Russia for 3 years. And I traveled a bunch. So that had a global menu. But I really got into the bones of Middle Eastern cuisine when I opened Maidan in 2017. And then since then, I've opened a few other restaurants in D.C., all with what I will call, for this conversation, Middle Eastern cuisine. So Mediterranean, yes, is Lebanon. I'm Lebanese American. Lebanon's on the Mediterranean, and I always feel like that's kind of the border, right? Like we say, you touch the Mediterranean, you can call it Mediterranean. I go a little deeper. I like to say my menu spans from the region between Tangiers to Tehran and from Batumi to Beirut, and then you can throw the Gulf states in. And so that to me is the Middle East. Some of us in the industry in this cuisine are trying to get away from Middle Eastern a little bit. So we do talk about this title a lot. That's why I was really excited about this panel. And get to, Middle East, North Africa, just say MENA, maybe WANA. I have one friend, a chef in Beirut, who's trying to get everyone to say WANA, Western Asia, North Africa. So this is a big conversation that I have regularly. What's the right answer? I'm not sure. I grew up being Middle Eastern, so I kind of, tend to that. In Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles, people know what that is. But Bob and I were talking before we started about my one attempt at fast casual in a suburb of Washington, and we really felt like the title was a struggle. But I'll let him talk about fast casual. My restaurants are independent and full service. And you touched on the fact that for a long time, I don't even know how much Middle Eastern food was in the normal conversation. When I moved to DC, there was very little, even in a very international city, very little Middle Eastern food in the city. Part of the reason I opened Maidan was because as a Lebanese American, I just didn't want to have to travel deep into the suburbs to find Lebanese food. So I built Maidan. It's a live fire Middle Eastern restaurant. Everything is literally cooked in the dining room. The only appliance we have is a combi oven, and it's only used during prep. We have a live fire tandoori. We do flatbread in there on live fire. It's, again, questioning life choices, guys. I do it a lot. There are days I walk in, I'm like, this was so novel, but this is so hard. But creating, making the food in a very ancient way when it's a very ancient cuisine, I think is very powerful. Anything that touches fire, we're doing a fire demo after this, always tastes better. So that's kind of the area I've been in, and I think, I say this because it's shocking to me, but we were like the first Middle Eastern restaurant in the U.S. to get a Michelin star. And I didn't go to culinary school. I wasn't looking for a Michelin star. But I think what a lot of my friends in the Middle Eastern community, my Egyptian friends, my Lebanese friends, were like, well, it elevated the food. Maybe now people will see it less as just kebab shop food, and they'll see it as something elevated. And so for that, I'm really proud. And but very honestly, the food is inspired by grandmas. My mother is who I learned to cook with. She didn't go to culinary school either, but she's cooked every day of her life. And so we're really proud of that. I put traditional food in a pretty space, and it turns out that people connected with it in a different way.
I love that. And Bob, I think that's a really great segue to talk about some of the things that you bring to the table with your decades of experience. You're at the Great Greek, you've been there for 4+ years now, but talk a little bit about what you're doing and how those connect.
Sure, absolutely. I thought we were going to talk about grandmothers.
You can talk about grandmas,
because I went to culinary school at the Culinary School of Maria Rosa Artusa, a Calabrian immigrant, and learned everything about the restaurant business from her, my mother, my aunt. So it's a pleasure to be with everyone here today. I just love the passion, love the inspiration. Usually I'm sitting at business restaurant business-oriented meetings, which has a little different feel to it. But this has been such a great pleasure to be here, and I love the perspective and the passion that that people are sharing with everyone. So again, Bob Anderson, I'm the president of Great Greek. The Great Greek Mediterranean Grill is going on its 14th year. We're currently the fastest growing Mediterranean fast casual brand in the country. In fact, we outpaced a large publicly traded company by about 30% in our growth. We're 85 restaurants on our way to be about 100 by the first quarter next year, and soon 150 after that. So the growth has been phenomenal, and that growth comes really from our operators. We're mostly a franchise model, probably 90% of our locations. So attracting, teaching in many cases, people how to execute our menu is really important to us, but most important is their passion to deliver really great food and a great experience overall. So when we think about what separates the Great Greek from all the other Mediterranean brands out there is we approach the business from a very high-level premium experience approach. The premium experience includes, great food, great ingredients, done really well. We customize cook-to-order your protein. So if you order a protein that's not on a production line, you don't go down the line, give me a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that. I think the consumer's getting a little bit fatigued with that model. So, but in addition, we're going to deliver our food to you. It's going to be the closest thing to a casual dining experience or a fine dining experience that you'll get in a fast casual limited service setting. And what I mean by that is your order at the counter, okay? But after that, your food will get staged out to you just like it would at a full service restaurant. So if you had an appetizer, we deliver your appetizer, your hummus first, or a salad. Then comes your entree, and if you had a dessert, then your dessert. It comes out on a real beautiful porcelain plate. We have silverware. You eat with the silverware. In fact, when you're done eating, you get up and leave. We don't even expect you to clean off your plate. We have a team that does that for us. So those are the parts of the experience that we think elevates the Great Greek. And I love what I've been hearing here at this conference is how do we bring that experience? The ambient part of the experience is what our team's doing, making people feeling welcome in the restaurant, really giving that Mediterranean vibe of welcomeness, communal, sharing plates as well. And when we put all those things together, it's just worked beautifully well for us. And, we're really excited about the future of the Great Greek, but we're more excited about the future of food, Mediterranean, healthy, premium, better for you. It's the fastest growing part of the restaurant business today. So again, such a pleasure to be here. You inspire me with your passion and your creativeness. So thank you.
I'm going to go rogue a little bit and go off topic because I think, Bob, you just brought up something that was really interesting about the model of fast casual and being able to order at the counter, but then this different way of sitting down at a table and being served in the same way that you would be served in a Michelin star or a regular restaurant. Can you talk about some of the business benefits of bisecting the front of house in that way where the customer is ordering at the counter but then still being served?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, the advantages of, a limited service environment, which we really push the envelope on, is people can get through our restaurant a lot faster, and speed and convenience is probably the two most important things to the consumer today. And it's something that we focus on from a labor standpoint. The food itself is, I like to say, our food is simple to execute. What makes our food challenging is the redundancy. That's a little human nature. But the pace of which our restaurant runs. So if you're at a very high volume restaurant, it becomes how do you execute under that stress of the pace. So we focus on that, but we don't need as many people. Mm-hmm. We rely a lot on training. We rely on individual productivity. And then we have to staff accordingly in the restaurant. Now, where we're different than most other fast casual restaurants, we might have a +1, a +2 in the front of the house, ensuring that we're driving this exceptional experience that our customers have come to love. And makes certainly a competitive difference for us in the business. To walk out of a fast casual restaurant with an experience very similar to a fine dining Greek restaurant is a tremendous advantage for us. So while everyone else is focusing on copying Chipotle and that model and those kind of things, we're focused on how do we elevate that experience to the guest, and it makes a world of difference.
Awesome. And then just a question for both of you, and Rose, you kind of teed us up for this, but Mediterranean food is a really big bucket. We've got Greek, we've got Middle Eastern, we've got Kava. What does that mean, right? But they're growing really rapidly in that same sort of Chipotle model. How do you individually think about pulling your specific brands apart from this larger bucket of Mediterranean so that when people are feeling the itch to eat what they think about as Mediterranean food, how do they scratch it by coming to you, Bob? How do they scratch it by coming to you, Rose?
I think in the kind of full service model that I have, I think people will search it out, especially, again, I'm in DC and LA. We're two cities where people are very conscious about health. Like Bob was saying, it's just, there's simple ingredients, but there's, especially when you have high volume, for a full service restaurant, and being sort of in the fine dining category, we're very high volume. We go very fast. You have to cook very quickly and you have to serve very quickly to work with us. And we have very little storage space because, again, more of an urban setting, space is very expensive. So we are making everything fresh every day. And so that's something everyone comments on is the freshness of it, the quality. When you know the spices of the region, one of the things, like, when my Lebanese mother, who's now a grandmother, walks in the restaurant, and I just told you all those places I represent, her simple answer is, I don't know why it's just not Lebanese. Why do you need this other stuff? And, she's like, Moroccan, I don't understand why you need that. But the reason was to pull in other flavors, right? I love Lebanese cuisine. It can get a little redundant, right? You have like cinnamon, lemon, mint over and over again. But if you pull in Morocco, you get harissa, you get chermoula. If you pull in Syria, you get Aleppo pepper. So we needed some spice, we needed some flavors. But literally the same protein, with different, like we have 6 condiments, for example, each like a different zug, toum, all of them very flavorful. You can literally use the same protein, put it in bread, and do a different sauce, and almost have like 6 different meals with at the same table. So it's just kind of the ingredients. Again, I cook on fire. There's no deep fryer. There's no heavy. I have one dish with butter. Everything else is with olive oil. So I think people search it out for the lightness, the health benefits. And I mean, to the point of this whole conversation, it's expanding. I have to say, in DC, since I've opened Made On 8 years ago this month, the amount of Middle Eastern restaurants since then has been, I can't even count it, at least 10 places, both full service and more casual, that have opened since. So I don't know if it just took one to kind of tip people off to how good this food is, and you can actually eat it multiple times a week. If I ate French food 3 times a week, I'd be 5 pounds heavier, right? Like every time I leave France, I am like so chubby. But when I go to my restaurant, I actually, I feel good at the end of the week. So I think there's just so many benefits, and I think via social media and all the things we have today, people are realizing these benefits more than at least when I was growing up and when I got into the business like 11 years ago.
And Bob, obviously Greek is in the title of your restaurant's name, so people have to kind of know, but do they associate that easily with Mediterranean? Do you find that you have to kind of like pull any strings to get people in there?
Yeah, it's really funny that we bring up this conversation. So as I mentioned earlier, we're a franchise model. And so not only do we do a lot of talking with the consumer, but we also get feedback from people who become franchisees, investors, business owners, operators. And so if I'm speaking to someone from Greece or Greek heritage, they tell me, this is exactly what I grew up with. If I speak with someone from Lebanon, they tell me, this is exactly what I grew up with. If I speak with someone from India, they tell me, this is so much like the food that I grew up with. So, this is brand number 7 for me, by choice, but this is brand number 7, and I could tell you those conversations and the cross-cultural appeal of the Mediterranean food is worldwide. And I travel around the world. We talk to people. We have a restaurant open in Egypt. We're open in Canada, in the UK.
You have some franchisees opening up restaurants. I think that's a really great segue to talk about that.
100%. And so everyone has their own little piece and how they identify with this. I think that was spoken about yesterday on the panel. For me, it doesn't matter. If I can just get you in to try the food and experience this type of food that we serve. There are other Mediterranean places who serve the same food. Some of them have different food, but we're just focused on doing what we do really, really good and bringing people into that space. There's this whole, I call it the wind behind our sails that's happening for us that's pushing people into our restaurants, food channels, right? Chefs like you who go out and when you talk and you get great press about great brands. There are venturous eaters out there, but most of the population is not. The medical community has been pushing people to the Mediterranean diet for years. So I would say the healthy aspect of the food is the number one thing that's driving this brand. I think more and more people are taking action about wanting to eat healthy, meaning that they're really searching out. And that's really helping this space. For us, it's how do we make it more presentable and easier for people? How do we dummy it down? In our restaurant, if you looked at our menu, we have some names, especially Savaki's easy for people, Gyro's easy for people, Tzatziki's easy for most people, but I can't even say some of them, Melolipsanana, right? So it's like sometimes there's fright of people and uncomfortableness on the names. Okay, so, and sometimes that's hard for someone who's really passionate and creative about the heritage of a food to change the name. And so that's something that we all have to come to terms with, is making it simple for the consumer. Because ultimately, if you're in the restaurant business, they're the ones who drive our success. So how do I break that down, make it easy for them to try? I know when they try it, they're going to love it, and they're going to come back.
And they're going to come back.
All right, so that's our challenge, is how do we take it, whether it's Middle Eastern, Mediterranean. As I told you, I grew up in a kitchen of, my grandmother was from Calabria. They were peasants. They weren't even educated. They taught me everything about this business I needed to know by the time I was 8. Okay, always have enough food and be ready for anyone to come at any time and welcome everyone into your table. That was number one. So anyone here for leftovers? You're like the king of leftovers. Everyone was welcome at our table. Like, it did not matter where they came from. I bring people home. I played football in college. I brought guys from the inner city in, and it was just like everyone was the same. The conversations were the same. And at the end, the third thing was the food was so great, people wanted to come back. And if you can embrace those in this business, then you will have incredible amount of success.
Yeah. I think it's such an interesting cuisine because it's been around for thousands and thousands of years, right? But like you said, the medical community, the olive oil and sort of the health that goes along with that. But thinking about how Mediterranean food has been growing in the restaurant space, and then thinking individually about, obviously, if we were having this conversation in a couple of months, for you that'd be different because you could talk a little bit more about expanding to LA. But what does growth start to look like? You just opened LA, so maybe set the PTSD aside for a second of a new restaurant opening and think about like growth beyond where you're at right now. What does that look like?
I think it's interesting. I think, I can't 100% answer that without saying, dealing with an unpleasant fact, which is that scaling full service restaurants when you don't have a big, and I know you guys didn't always have a big corporate backing, is getting harder and harder, right? Especially in the big coastal cities. And that's, a whole different panel is about how does restaurants survive in these economies.
Sure
I will say one of my answers to that was the project in LA is different than DC, because made on standalone, 3,000 square feet DC. In LA, I actually put it in a market. So I took a 10,000 square foot warehouse, reopened Made On with about as many seats, about 150, live fire, full service, whole thing. But I'm sharing the space with 4 other businesses that I don't own. I'm basically their landlord. They're paying me percentage rent, and we're all chipping into the joint resources. So it's my, slightly socialist state, but it's an experiment to see how do I continue to grow this if I don't want to take on big investors, if I don't want to, venture capital would never want anything to do with my concept as it is, right? It's not like his. It's not scalable. It's not big money. It's never going to make a lot of money. We do it for love of the game. So how can we keep doing it in cities that are making it almost impossible for small businesses and small restaurants to exist? So my LA project is actually one of answering your question that I ask myself every day is like, how do we scale? So I took a big space and I'm trying to share the cost of doing it. In the meantime, I'm trying to give back because I've been very fortunate, in this career so far, and I am trying to lower the barrier to entry for the other small businesses. So most of the people that have come in have not had brick and mortar before, right? So we're almost an incubator, but have had their own following, super successful. I have a Oaxacan chef who makes tayudas. He's only ever made them on Friday nights in a front yard in South Central, right? But he got a beard nom for Best Chef Southern California. He deserves to have brick and mortar, but how in the hell in Los Angeles is he going to do that if you don't help? So this is kind of my answer. I will tell you the cost of doing it was still insane. I will pay it off for the rest of my life. So if I want to continue doing these and spreading the good word of Middle Eastern cuisine, which is the other piece of why I do it, right, is to make people understand my culture and a part of the world that's very misunderstood here. And we only see the dark images on television, but I know the kitchens of the people and the hospitality and the agriculture and all of the potential, but for a part of the world that's just been held back by war and geography and a lot of horrible things that had nothing to do with the beautiful people that make the food. So this is part of my mission in why I do what I do. So how do I spread it if I'm not a big company? So Made on Market in LA is one way. And then very honestly, I'll just tell you, brass tacks, I'm thinking about like a license deal in a hotel or something, because a lot of independent restaurants, if you can't, to find the funding for a build out that requires a live fire, that might be an option in the future. But otherwise, you need a lot of passionate souls who believe in what you're doing, who are going to put a bunch of money together and trust you that they're going to get it back.
Yeah, I think
So
that's
that's the independent play. Sorry, guys.
Well,
I'll give you a pep talk later if you want to do this.
It feels really not that far off, actually, from the franchise model, right? You're supporting first-time restaurateurs who may not have experience to do something that they want to do, to love it. You want to talk for just a minute or so about what that looks like and how you support your franchise as their entry into the business?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, training is critical, but finding franchisees who align with our passion about our food. And that should be the same whether we're independent, franchise, large, or small, but those are the conversations we all have to have, with ourselves and with our teams. Where am I willing to give a little innovation, or how I want something done exactly this way to produce this outcome? How do I square that away with if I want to scale? And those are the tough challenges and decisions that you have to make as a restaurant operator if you want to scale. We feel like we do it both. We still struggle. We still have challenges. We still have people tell us we shouldn't make our stuff fresh daily, every day. We have franchisees tell us that too. So how we approach it is we have a system. It's successful. If you follow it, you have a better chance of being successful than if you don't. You're an adult. We're an adult. This is how we do it, and we give them a really high-level training. It's not complicated recipes and food. In fact, it's the redundancy of doing the same thing over and over is where we find ourselves having to really monitor more than, can I teach you how to make hummus, teach you how to grill and marinate chicken? Those are fairly simple things. But again, the pace of our business is what really brings and separates the big challenges. So we train not always our operators, but their teammates, their team for that as well. So it's a huge part of what we do, just like any other restaurant.
Yeah, and that growth is showing. If you say you're at 80, 85 now, and then looking to be 100, so it's a lot of work to get there. But everyone starts with one and figures out how to go. I think that's almost all of our time, right? I just saw the 8 seconds. I had one more question, but I saw the 8 seconds, so I'm gonna give you those 8 seconds back, Lydia.
This was a wonderful conversation, lots of great business advice, sort of takes this Mediterranean theme and gives it some more depth. So please help me thank Erica Holland-Toll, Rose Previtt, and Bob Anderson.
Welcome to Peanuts in the Plant-Forward Kitchen. I'm Ashton Pelham. Today we're diving into performance nutrition, specifically how peanuts help fuel athletes at every level. I'm thrilled to be joined by Chef Tony, who is going to share some tips for athletes to stay fueled, focused, and ready to compete. Athletes push their bodies to the limit, so what they eat matters. I think you're going to share a recipe that can help with post-game or post-workout recovery. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. I'm making a protein peanut butter smoothie. This smoothie is perfect for recovery. Peanut butter aids athlete recovery by providing a combination of protein, good fats, and other essential nutrients that help repair muscle damage, replenish energy stores, and reduce inflammation. Specifically, the protein content supports muscle repair and growth, while the good fats sustain energy and contribute to reducing inflammation and muscle soreness.
Wow, Chef Tony, that was really informative. Can you tell me what else is in the smoothie other than peanut butter?
We have some peanut protein powder that we're gonna mix with some cocoa powder, and we're mixing it in a bowl because what'll happen is if we don't, sometimes it'll tend to clump around the sides of the blender.
Okay.
And then we also have some frozen bananas.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put those in here first. And then we have peanut butter.
Now, does it matter how much peanut butter? Is it to your liking?
It's kind of to your liking.
Okay.
I feel like if you go too heavy, it'll tend to get really thick, but you can always add more oat milk if you need. We're gonna add in some vanilla extract. We're gonna pour our peanut powder and cocoa mixture on top.
Wow.
The last thing is we have some ice and we have some oat milk.
And this is so easy. It's so fast to make,
This is like you wake up late and you have to hurry.
which I so often do.
Start it on low, make sure your blending is on low, and then slowly increase it.
Okay.
All right. And then it nice as thing.
Mm.
All right, and then we're gonna add the ice.
Oh, wow.
All right. And that's it.
And that's it?
That's it.
That was super fast. Now, with all the training and the on-the-go lifestyle, this looks like a quick and easy way for athletes to get the fuel they need on the go.
Yes, peanuts and peanut butter are an automatic go-to because it's shelf stable and helps you sustain your energy without crashing.
Okay, well, let's give this delicious shake a try. All right, and cheers.
Cheers.
Yes. Mmm. Delicious. This is amazing. Quick, easy, and on the go, full of protein and all the nutrients, huh?
Absolutely.
Wow, well, thank you, Chef Tony, for joining us today. Clearly, peanuts are a powerful player in any athlete's meal plan and a secret weapon for chefs who want to keep their teams energized and ready to win. Thanks for watching Peanuts in the Plant Forward Kitchen. I'm Ashton Pelham. See you next time. And Chef, before you go, I'm definitely gonna need this recipe.
These crispy Vietnamese spring rolls, or chua zo, are traditionally made filled with Whittier mushrooms, vermicelli noodles, pork, and sometimes shrimp, though this can vary regionally. Today, I'm going to show you how to make a vegetarian version, filled with tofu and vegetables in place of pork and shrimp. In Vietnam, these spring rolls are enjoyed as an appetizer, like we'll demonstrate here, or as a topping on bún chả. First, let me show you how to make the filling. Heat canola oil in a skillet over medium heat. Add lemongrass, shallots, and carrots, and saute them until they're fragrant, about 3 minutes. Next, stir in rehydrated and minced Whittier mushrooms, cooked and chopped vermicelli noodles, and some tofu. I'm using the soya organic extra firm tofu that I've crumbled. Add soy sauce, oyster sauce, and palm sugar, and cook for another 4 minutes, stirring to incorporate. Remove from the heat and allow the filling to cool completely. This is key in order to prevent soggy spring rolls. Now I'll show you how to assemble the spring rolls. You can lightly brush the edges of the Nasoya egg roll wrap with some cornstarch paste to ensure a really secure seal. I've made that by cooking equal parts cornstarch to water to make a little egg roll glue. Place about 2 tablespoons of the cooled filling in the center of each egg roll wrapper. I'm using Nasoya egg roll wraps for this because they hold up well and crisp up beautifully when they're fried. Fold the bottom corner over the filling, then fold in the sides. From there, roll the filling tightly so it's sealed. Let's go ahead and finish assembling the rest of our spring rolls. You can make these in advance and refrigerate them until you're ready to serve them. Now we're ready to fry our spring rolls. Heat oil in a deep skillet or pot to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Fry the spring rolls in batches for 2.5 to 3 minutes or until they're golden and crispy. Drain them on a wire rack or paper towels to maintain their crispiness. Arrange the spring rolls on a platter with lettuce leaves, fresh herbs, and some pickled carrot, cucumber, and daikon. Serve with nyok chom dipping sauce or sweet chili sauce on the side.
One of the most delicious and iconic comfort foods in Europe is moussaka and its many variations depending on where it's made. Moussaka is cousins with shepherd's pie and is a layered eggplant or potato-based dish, often including ground meat, tomato, and a top layer of custardy bechamel sauce. Moussaka is a 13th century dish from the Arabian Levant. Today, it's enjoyed all over the Balkans and the Middle East, and it has many local and regional variations, from hot to cold, with or without eggplant, filled with beef or lamb, and everything in between depending on its origin. In the same spirit, I'm making this delicious layered dish inspired by Bulgaria's moussaka, Malta's timpana, and Cyprus's makaronia tou furnu, using ingredients from all over the European Union. The first step is to prepare the hotel pan. I'll butter the pan with this garlic and herb butter from France, which will add some creaminess. Next, I'll cover the butter with some crushed potato chips. I'm using truffle and Irish butter potato chips from Ireland for their intense truffle flavor. As the base of the dish, I'm making a twist on the traditional savory meat and tomato stew. To give my stew some umami sweetness and a different textural element, I'm starting by using the oil from the EU organic dried cherry tomatoes from Spain. The EU organic label ensures that the product is safely made, following strict regulations, and with respect for the environment. You will find moussaka made with ground beef, pork, or lamb, but I'm making this version using cotechino Modena, a traditional cooked pork sausage from Modena, which has PGI or Protected Geographical Indication status, meaning it's a product deeply rooted in its origin, with most of its production taking place right in Modena, Italy. The rich and savory flavor of the sausage pairs beautifully with other European ingredients in this dish. Mediterranean appetizer of fried eggplant and peppers from Bulgaria is a great product to use because the fried eggplant and peppers are already mixed with flavorful tomatoes, garlic, herbs, and spices. Add the dried cherry tomatoes. Red onion preserve from Romania adds a sweet and savory flavor. Add a bit of sweet paprika from Hungary for a sweet smokiness. The product holds a PDO, or Protected Designation of Origin status, meaning that every part of production, processing, and preparation must take place in the region of its geographic origin. I'm adding a splash of Slovenska Istra, a Cabernet Sauvignon from Slovenia that also holds PDO, or Protected Designation of Origin status, meaning it's crafted entirely in its home region, capturing bold notes of blackcurrant, blackberry, and a hint of black pepper. I'm giving our moussaka an elevated and fun twist by topping it with a whipped herb and truffle potato chip flavored bechamel. I was inspired to use potato chips in the topping since it reminded me of the instant mashed potatoes that so many of us grew up eating. I'm using more of the truffle and Irish butter potato chips and bringing them to a boil in water. These get blended with a little more of the garlic and herb butter from France. Pour the stew into a prepared pan. As you can see, the bechamel is looking so delicious and is going to be the perfect creamy counterpart to the rich stew. I also added a crispy garnish of crushed potato chips, a sprinkle of Portuguese sea salt, and a bit more of the red onion preserves on the side, with a dusting of sweet paprika from Hungary. This moussaka is such a rich and comforting dish with so many layers of intense flavor. I love this comforting and end of summer recipe because it reimagines the iconic dish through a modern lens by using high-quality ingredients and showcasing regional depth and cross-cultural inspiration.